Good day, folks. This is Greg Judy at Green Pastures Farm. Today I come to you from Tucson, Arizona. We've been out here on a grazing project with Ricardo down in Cochise County, and we're getting ready to go back to Green Pastures Farm today and just getting ready to go out to the airport. But Jan and I had a few minutes, and she's always wanting to do some of these question and answers. And what Jan does is she gathers up the questions from you all. These are comments that you all have made on some of our videos, and she's real good about categorizing them together. And so that's what this is going to be. It's another question and answer session. And Jan, what's your first question this morning?
Yes. So thank you all for submitting the questions. Greg does answer them to you, but then I don't know how many people really look at those. So this is a good time for everybody to hear these questions and the answers. So we're going to start out with, how is the lead cow decided? What age? And do they have battles?
So what she's talking about there, folks, is the lead cow, or we call her the boss cow. In every herd, there's always going to be a boss cow, it seems like, or a lead animal. And in our herd, it's 160. That's her number. And she's just always the first one at the front of the gate waiting. She knows where that gate is or where we're going to move them at. And sometimes she doesn't guess right. So if we have a line of wire up, she'll be waiting at the rear. Well, sometimes the boys will fool them, take it loose at the other end. So she's stuck over here. And all the cows get to move because she's clear at the other end. Oh, she doesn't like that. She's just you can almost tell she's giving us a cow look like, why did you do that? But anyway, she's earned that right. So every cow in that herd respects 160. And the way it works is every animal in that herd knows where they belong, all the way from the youngest calf to the oldest bull to the oldest cow. And so they push on each other from the time they were born. And so there is a lineage in there, and you can move up in that family and challenge a cow. I've seen it happen. And they'll push each other around that paddock for sometimes 5 minutes until the other cow finally runs off and says, okay, I give. And what happens is, as you're grazing, you can watch those cows. They'll be grazing, and there's one here grazing that's below the one that's coming toward it. It'll move off immediately. It's like, no, there comes 160. She whipped me. She gets the best grass. And so that's kind of what the lead cow is all about. It's really nice to have a lead cow because when you go to move them, she's there. And all it takes to move your cows is one to get them moving. And so, we give out a war whoop, I'll let out a call, or the boys just open the gate. She's there. On our road drives, all these road drives we do down the roads, she's awesome. I mean, she brings the herd.
Well, and then the next question along that, what if you only have one water source, which many times we do in our paddocks, and you bring in your 400 cattle, do they fight? What happens there?
Yeah, so because the way we've got our farms set up and our water points, our cows don't have to walk anymore. Probably our furthest water point is going to be around 1,200 feet. And that's just the way our farms are set up. We're not, we don't have 5,000 square acres where cows have to walk miles to get to water. So the further your cows have to walk to water, the more of them that are going to come at one time. And so by keeping your water points close, it's not a big deal to have a large herd because you're only going to have 15, 20 drinking, and you might have 10 or 15 walking back, and there might be 4 or 5 coming. So it's not 400 drinking at one time. But I will say this, if cows have to walk more than half a mile, all 400 of them are coming. And now you got a problem. And if you don't have a big tank. I have friends out in Texas, Vandy down by McAllen. I mean, his tanks are huge. He's got tanks that look like a swimming pool. There's probably, I don't know, 50 to 100,000 gallons in there. Well, he's got a couple thousand cows coming to drink at one time, so he needs a big reservoir. And so the bigger the herd you have, and the further you make them walk, the bigger tank you need. Well, we just told Mike, out here on the grazing project the other day, he could go to a 50-gallon tank. He's got 78 head. He's doing long, narrow strips out here in Cochise County. He could go to a smaller tank. He's got 200-gallon water tank. He could probably go to a 50-gallon tank. and move that water out in the center of that paddock with just temporary hose. That's going to cut down on the amount of travel the cows have to walk. It's also going to increase your stocking density and put more manure out in the middle of those paddocks. Folks, water is a magnet. It's a magnet for manure. And so wherever you put your water, you're going to have a lot of manure and a lot of urine. Don't keep that spot in the same place. Move it around. Use it as a tool to grow more grass.
And a lot of times, you can watch our cattle. You'll have 2 or 3 coming,
Yep.
2 or 3 drinking, and then 2 or 3 leaving.
Yep.
It's like a circulating
Yep.
out there all the time.
I don't see our cows really fighting over water. The only time they fight is if you run out of water.
Yeah.
That's a whole different ballgame. If you run out of water, they freak out. They absolutely freak out. And they'll stay camped on that water. Once you get it fixed, they can hear it running. They're not leaving. They're going to stay there and just guard that tank.
And that's when you do get fighting.
Yeah, they're so fearful of not getting a drink.
Okay.
Yeah.
On to the next question. On water, how much rain should one look for to be able to adequately run cattle, sheep, and pasture pigs?
How much rain?
Yeah. How much rain should one look for to be able to adequately run cattle, sheep, and or pigs?
Well, so you're asking about your annual rainfall. Yeah, so the less rainfall you have, of course, the less forage you're going to grow. So you're going to have to stock accordingly. Like in Missouri, I'll give you an example. We're at 2 to 3 acres for a cow.
For us.
For us, for a year.
But Missouri's number
we're
is 4.
Well, we're 40 inches of rain a year.
Right, but the state says 4 per.
Right, so the state average is around 4 acres per cow. We're down to 2 to 3. We've been as low as 1.8. And that's because of the way we graze. We're moving our cows twice a day, trampling a lot of forage on the ground, growing a lot more grass than our neighbors are. Folks, this, I'll say it again, the Columbus method, where you turn the cows out in the spring and discover them in the fall. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You'll go broke doing that. You've got to manage your grass. And at the end of the day, all livestock producers, ruminants, running ruminants, cattle, sheep, goats, you're in the livestock grazing business. What is that? It's grass. You got to be able to manage your grass. And it's the most powerful crop we have available to us if we learn to manage it.
Right. And then the rainfall determines.
Yep. How much, so in Cochise County here, they're getting 13 to 16 inches of rain a year. It takes more than 2 acres to run a cow out here because they only get to graze their land once a year. Okay? In Missouri, we may graze our pastures 4 to 5 times a year because it's growing back. It's growing back because we're getting the rain every 7 to 10 days. Makes a big difference.
Okay. Where are the videos on our, in our videos, we don't show shelters for our animals.
Oh, where's all the shelters at for our animals? Why do you got to have a shelter for an animal? There's never been shelters out there before, and they've survived for tens of thousands of years. Here's the deal: in Missouri, it does get very cold. We can get snow blizzards, and when we anticipate something like that coming, we're always going to give them some woods. We're going to give them access to a draw. It's got some timber in it.
This is where the cedars come in.
That's where the cedars come in. If you just park your cattle up on top of a hill, you've got a blizzard coming, that's going to get pretty raw for them.
Right.
But that's called stockmanship, okay? But yeah, our sheep, you could give them access to a barn, they wouldn't go in it. Well, we had them in that old farm. There's an old barn over there. Now, the goats would go in there. The goats would go in inclement weather, but the sheep wouldn't. They'd stay right out there on top of the hill.
Or they might stand beside it outside, but again, that's like they're looking for Mother Nature's.
Yeah, if you're in North Dakota, South Dakota, where you have a lot of wind and extremely cold temperatures, I think windbreaks. You need some kind of windbreaks out there because there's no trees out there. And I think that's doable.
Right, and then like on Martha's Vineyard, they have like pelting, freezing rain.
Yeah.
Again, shelters, not necessarily
right
barns, but yeah, I thought that was kind of cute. Last question for this session is, where do you buy the quick snaps on connectors?
Yeah, so the quick coupler, she's talking about Plasson. It's spelled Plasson, the Plasson quick coupler. The way it works is it works like an air hose. When you plug it into your water supply, instant water comes out to your livestock tank. And those plastic quick couplers, you can buy those from Timeless Fence. They carry them. That's where we get.
And
ours.
it's really handy for your watering points.
Yeah, and Powerflex Fence, we buy them from them as well. They, for a plastic quick coupler, you're going to be given, for the male and the female, it's a 2-part system. You got your female that goes onto your water pipe, and then the male plugs into that. And you're talking $20 for a water point. We've never had one fail ever. Go buy a hydrant today. They're $130. And guess what happens with a hydrant? Cows start pushing on them and bust them off. Well, the snap coupler, it's down on the ground. They can't push on it because they don't even have access to it.
And you can move it around.
That's right.
So.
Yeah, so I think we're going to wrap up with that. We need to get going here, but everyone have a great day. And thanks again for being loyal subscribers. And if you would hit that subscribe button way out, we'd appreciate it. Thank you all.
Ciao.